2023 is one of the best years for gaming ever.
But are there too many games?
Let's talk about it. Up top, we just want to say, having loads of great games to play, very first world problem. We know, it's amazing.
Love it.
Never been a better time to be
A gamer.
It's hard to ignore the fact that despite there being so many incredible games, like we've just had Baldur's Gate into Starfield, and then October is ridiculous, all the way through to November, all the way through to the end of the year. Are we really able to get the most out of the games that we have and that we are currently playing? Because we are always looking to the next thing.
It's weird because I think especially for me, it's gone from I wish I could play, which was what it used to be like, where it was like, you have a few games and you couldn't buy everything, to I wish I could play more of, where it's like I very rarely will complete a game and move on to the next thing. Now I'm like, I'll play one thing, I'll be like, I'm enjoying this, but I wish I could play more XYZ.
Yeah, I mean, compare now to 10 years ago, we've got Game Pass, we have free games on Epic, we've got PlayStation Plus.
Back in the day, if you bought a game and
that was your game,
you had to commit to that game. You like, if it was a bad game, sorry man. I mean, that's when the fanboy discussions made more sense, when it was like you had to evangelize the game that you paid for because you paid for it, and if it's not great, you still were like, it's good.
Yeah, gaming is still very much feeling the ramifications from 2020 and 2021 lockdown, because so many things got delayed. Like games got delayed into 2021, into 22, and now it feels like a ton of them have ended up in 2023. This year alone has been so stacked, and we're not even in October yet. Like Baldur's Gate, Starfield, like I mentioned,
Resident Evil,
Dead Space,
Final Fantasy 16.
I didn't write that down. Final Fantasy 16. Alan Wake is coming up. Phantom Liberty and Cyberpunk are coming up.
Tears of the Kingdom. I speak to people who aren't in the industry, and even that they have an interest in games they play, even they're like, I don't have time for this stuff. Like, I'm still playing, between the lifestyle games, like, the Street Fighters and
Destiny.
The latest Destiny update, that kind of stuff, and then everything else, like it feels impossible. And it's reached a point now where games are starting to move out of the way of each other. Summer break used to be a place where you could be like, oh, I missed these 3 games, I'm gonna play these 3 games. But now most people miss so many games that it's not enough time before like it all pops off again. You're like, oh, I can play. I've like missed all these games, and we're not trying to. Not everyone's a completionist where they need to. Not everyone is Gerard, and they need to like play every single game. It's just a matter of like, there are so many games that I would personally have an interest in that summer period is still like clearly not enough.
Yeah, and also again looking back, games used to be much shorter.
For the most part, a lot of them were like fairly linear to a degree, and like open world games, they came by every now and then, and they were these impressive feats that like, you're like, wow, that was amazing. I spent 30 hours in this Grand Theft Auto game, whatever it may be, and it was amazing. And then you'd play a bunch of 10 to 15 to 20 hour linear games, and then eventually another big game came. Those 10 to 15 hour games now are just exceedingly rare, at least on the scale of development that, big budget development. Now games are designed to either become a part of your life, or they demand so much time that it's like weeks, if not months, before you complete them. Gaming is a communal experience in a lot of ways. It's like you have a community of people that you're a gamer whether you like it or not, okay?
We're gamers.
And unfortunately that means you have to speak to other gamers. So sometimes you might be like, I wasn't interested in this, but there's such a big conversation happening around it that I want to be part of, and no one should be like embarrassed about that. I've done that plenty of times. I want to know why people are into Destiny. I am not super into Destiny, but I still play it just to be like, I have an opinion on this. There's so many other games that the gems kind of very easily slip through the cracks, they're easily forgotten. For example, Hi-Fi Rush came out this year. I swear to God, I played that game 3 years ago. That's how it feels.
That's how 2023 feels.
Yeah, and like the saddest part about that is I haven't thought about Hi-Fi Rush in a long time.
But it came out at such an incredible point because there was nothing else really around it.
Perfect.
Shadow dropped.
But then it got pummeled by so many other releases. I think that it does limit the discussion that we have around game. It limits the critique that we can have around game. It limits the analysis around the games. I think people will probably listen to that and take it in a very reductive way, where it's like reviews or like talking about it on podcasts. We're not talking about that. We're talking about like really sitting with the game and mulling it over and coming at it from different angles. You have to make a judgment and move on.
Yeah.
And it has a knock-on impact in the way we talk about games.
Yeah.
And also the way we like interface with the people that make games who are more accessible than ever, because because you don't think about it on a deeper level, your interactions with it and the people who make it and the community that likes it or dislikes it is just so surface level.
Yep.
And developers don't get much out of it either, because
they're on to the next thing already.
they're on to the next thing, and also they know that the people who are screaming this sucks is probably played it for an hour before moving to something else and said the whole thing sucks. It's hard to say what we can do, like as consumers and people who play games.
Fans.
Yeah, there's nothing really that we can do other than even voting with your wallet is a weird thing, because like, you're not going to affect it that much. I think like it has to come from the publisher side in a lot of ways. I feel like the one small
spread out those releases, please.
Spread out those releases. I think it's because also like they need to be more comfortable with the idea that if you put a game outside of those very specific windows that traditionally games have been released in, because financials and some analyst many years ago was like, this is good, it won't automatically die. Like,
no, look at like Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah,
both came out summer of 2020.
Spread them out. You're more likely to release a game into a busy period and have it just completely get lost than you are have people be like, oh, there's a really cool game over there, let's go play that instead. I want to see games promoted that don't have massive marketing and PR budgets.
Cool. Like we went to our first PAX and that was awesome, because we got to see some games that where I guess we just wouldn't see them usually.
I find it bizarre. No, I don't find it bizarre. I know exactly where. Every time I load up the PlayStation store, it's like NBA 2K and FIFA. I'm like, who is
Fortnite?
Like, oh my god, there's a new FIFA. Holy shit.
What? Oh, well, you can't call it that anymore.
eFootball is here. Or
was it
EA Sports
football club?
EA Sports Club soccer game. Whatever. But like it's
name.
always the games that everyone knows are coming out and everyone is paying a close attention to that are like most prominently
It's always
featured.
The ones with the microtransactions.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, give us something, tell us about another game that's cool. Like, do that for Hi-Fi Rush or whatever it may be.
But there's also really cool events, stuff like PAX, Day of the Devs, stuff that I Am 8-Bit puts on, where they are definitely always trying to highlight those games. So,
and also, you know what? Make shorter games. Like, games are expensive as hell. Everyone keeps saying it. And part of that expense is because they're so big and bloated. Like,
look, Ubisoft doesn't have to take an L in this episode. We can move on.
No more open worlds, Ubisoft! I'm very excited for the new Assassin's Creed because they're saying it's short.
Small.
Put the budget you would have put into making this massive land mass that's mostly empty and it's just like got rote combat or something like that into something better, smaller. I really hope that is what the new Assassin's Creed is, and I hope it does really well. Yeah. And it proves at least to Ubisoft that they can make smaller games, and then they go and make the Splinter Cell games they've been telling us they're making, but keep fucking ignoring.
So yes, there are too many games except for Splinter Cell games. There aren't enough of those.
Where is Sam?
We'll never know. He might be in the shadows right now. We just can't see.
It splits up in the sky.
Anyway, thank you for watching this week's episode of Spot On. We are not back next week because we're
done.
No, we're doing
we're gonna be traveling.
Some travel.
You will see some
we'll
videos
tell you about soon
in the future about it.
But then we'll be back the week after that. You can find me on Twitter at Lucy James Games.
I am at TamorH.
Where?
Everywhere.
On X?
On X.com. On Adult Friend Finder.
All right.
On Habbo Hotel.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Keep on gaming.
Oh, is that our sign off?
It's gonna happen.
Like in Strictly Come Dancing, where they're like, keep dancing.
Keep gaming.